Sophie, before we talk about this week's film, I also wanted to chat a bit about pianos again.
Okay.
Just because. So Dave and I were in the theatre last night, and
I think it's pronounced theatre.
Theatre. We went to theatre, and they had a piano. And remember last week I was really upset about how quickly a piano could be moved, because you can't move that. You can't. It's a beast. So like they could move a piano really quickly, because I guess there are actually lighter pianos that are not like the beasts. I've had 2 upright pianos and both are beasts. So I just wanted to take back all of that criticism, which obviously deflected from my enjoyment of the film last week. But I just also wanted to just let you know that you can move pianos very quickly if there are certain types of piano. And in the theatre, they have those pianos. And maybe these people in The Strangers last week also had said piano. Therefore, I was wrong. I'm sorry. You can run with pianos.
In anticipation of a deluge of angry letters from piano manufacturers at the implied mass of their produced instruments, we're sorry. And
I have one question though, Karen. Do you think you would have enjoyed The Strangers more if you had known it was so easy to move a piano?
No.
I don't think so.
It's not the top point that you didn't like.
I think rather than getting so angry though, I might have just gone, wee! I wish I had a piano like that. Maybe that's what I would have been thinking.
Like my next piano will be easy to move when I have people trying to break down my front door with an axe, and I can just pop it right in front of there.
Yeah, and then also just like made me feel really, really sad for their move list, because we've moved this piano now like 5 times, and we're in an upstairs apartment here.
Yeah, how do they?
That is a heavy beast.
They just carry it up the stairs.
They literally do. The only bits of equipment they used were like several wood blocks. It's like several wood blocks and 3 dudes, and they just maneuvered it. Like it was amazing. Piano moving is a job. It is like a skilled job.
They must be really fit.
Yeah.
Terrible backs.
Yeah.
Anyway,
sorry, I digress.
I was like, I want to know. Let's talk about pianos more.
I just had to clarify that, because obviously I saw this last night, and immediately, the other thing was this was early on in the play, and so of course, as soon as the play ended, I went, Dave, you can move a piano really quickly. Yeah, this is not what this play is about.
Some other things happened.
But the piano moving was really impressive. So anyway, this week we were watching Dave's Choice, and Dave chose...
And what a choice it was.
Yeah, Dave chose Train to Busan, 2016 South Korean film. Yeah, so look, you both probably will be better at describing this than me. So I didn't sleep again on Tuesday night this week. That seems to be what happens. So I had a list of things I wanted to achieve on Wednesday, and one of them was watching the film. So I decided at 3 a.m. to watch this film. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it at the time. But I mean, I very much was not sleeping. But yeah, do one of you want to actually, having seen it possibly more recently than me, talk through what's about?
I think Dave saw it the most recently.
I saw the most recently. I literally finished watching it an hour ago.
Because I watched it last night. Yeah, that's the end of that story.
So I mean, I want to start by saying that I loved it. Like I fucking loved this movie.
I thought it was really good, but I thought it was too long.
It held me all the way.
I really waved. Like probably, I think it was like, and we'll get to it, but like when they're back in the train to Busan, like I just feel like that process, there was too many bits to it. I was just like, no, I'm gonna do this carriage, then this carriage, then this carriage, and that was the bit.
Can I ask before we talk about it, just because it's been a while since we watched a zombie movie, actually quite a long time.
Yeah, so to summarize briefly, it's a zombie film.
Yeah, zombie film.
About a zombie train called Busan. No.
Yeah.
Do you like zombie movies?
No, I do like zombie movies. Okay. Like I remember, like we did Dawn of the Dead double feature in the past. Like, I really love a zombie movie, and I don't get me wrong, I really liked this movie, but there was a bit where I was like, I feel like we could have cut like 20 minutes out of this little bit.
Well, you know me, if you can make something an hour and a half, I prefer an hour and a half. But I have to agree with Dave on this one, like where I was invested all the way to the end.
This film really earned its 2 hours, I think.
Okay.
And that's because it had everything, man. It had redemption and sacrifice and like much more righteous violence than I was expecting. Like the violence in this film is awesome. Like there's straight up action sequences that are used quite sparingly, but when they happen are just really, really, really exciting to watch. And I wasn't expecting that from this film at all. I was like, it's zombies on a train. That's going to be scary. And I'm into that. But this was...
No, because I think it is described as an action zombie film. Like it is an action film. So Dave, tell us more about...
Tell us about this movie, Dave.
So when we start the film, it starts with the kind of fractious relationship between a young daughter and her father, who's clearly kind of middle manager guy at this. He's a fund manager, clearly a middle management type, because we see him taking some calls from higher ups and distributing the orders further down the chain. Kind of unimaginative seeming guy, eats lunch at his desk.
He's got a nice face though. I did appreciate his face throughout that whole movie.
Solid face, man. Really,
I thought he was like a very pretty protagonist. I appreciated that.
Yes, absolutely conceded and agreed. But it's kind of implied, so he doesn't know it's his daughter's birthday. He doesn't know what to get her. He ends up getting her a Wii, but she's already got one. He missed her singing recital and she sang really badly. He's kind of too invested in his work and too kind of focused on himself, basically, which is a big theme of the movie.
Yes, it is. The selfless versus selfish.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the kind of first thing he does to kind of address that. So we see him start to address this from the start of the film, and this kind of goes all the way through. The little girl says she wants to visit her mum, his ex-wife, in Busan, which is distant from where they are now.
Yes.
So the only way to do that is to get on the train. So he puts her on the train, and they get on the train together, and they're off. And
that's when it all starts falling away.
It's interesting though, because like, I guess the one thing we miss, because we start off with that character, and again, there is a little precursor at the start, which I love, and I don't want you to skip over that because I love it.
All right.
So right at the very start of the film is someone trying to drive into the... A truck driver stopped at a passage.
You're right.
Isn't he the sheep?
Yeah, it was and he was like, oh my God, I'm getting stopped again. This is crazy. And then he ends up, he hits a deer. And like that kills his day. But this is when I was immediately hooked from this film, because the reanimation of the zombie deer was one of my favorite things in that film, because I was kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Oh yeah, okay, well, there's a virus got loose. Okay, the humans are all going to be having a terrible time, whatever. But the first thing is a zombie deer. Great start.
Which also, like, it's one of several points in the film as well that seems like it shouldn't work but does, where the zombie deer looks into the camera, and we get this piece of music that's not dun dun dun, but might as well be dun dun dun.
But also just the way that it gets up, because it's like this deer's been hit by a car, you think it's dead, and then a little like zombie gets up, but at that stage you can't see like into its eyes, so you're just like, oh, this deer is waking up even though it's dead. And then they go into it and it's got like the weird kind of cataraxy like glassed over eyes, and then like look straight into the camera. It's just
because I have to say I knew this was a zombie film, but other than that I knew very little about it, and so I then I was like, is it going to be zombie deer? Is that what's the deer going to be on the train? I don't know. And then later on, there was, again, before we get to the, or maybe once we've got to the dudes, the main protagonist, there was chat about weird things happening to the natural wildlife. So there's weird things going on with the fish and something else. So I think possibly because my brain was still in birds mode from a couple of weeks ago, I was like, scary animals going to kill you. And then cue to our dude takes his daughter on the train, and I'll hand back to you.
So we're on the train, and I think maybe the first weird happens. We see some kerfuffle as they're pulling out of the station.
Yeah, so she's...
and that's right. So as the train doors are about to close, we see the conductor look away for a second, and this person kind of lollops onto the train, who's clearly got some issues. And then the conductor turns back, hasn't seen them, and it's like, yeah, cool, let's get out of here. And the door shuts. And then there's some kerfuffle like off the platform.
Yeah, so as they're pulling away, the girl sees basically there's a guy, and then someone just basically like launch himself at this other guy and like take him to the ground. And she's like, what?
Yes.
And which is, you think this is a problem. This is not how we treat people on the train platform.
She looks to dad. Dad's asleep. So obviously, like, we've had this person lull upon, they're clearly infected with the zombie thing. And we're basically just waiting for things to kick off at this point. Like, we've clearly planted the seed of the movie, which is that the train is going from A to B in a Snowpiercer-like fashion, and it's all going to be contained in this tiny little environment.
And they've got news screens in the train showing that things are kicking off. In different times. So like fire engines are going past because there's big fires in factories and whatever. Like, but basically, crap is happening.
It's kicking off. It's kicking off.
But in some ways, you feel, all right, well, we're on a train. Maybe we're safe. But of course, we know that's not going to be the case.
So, infected lady bites one of the stewards on the train.
But there's also this bit where there's the homeless guy gets on, and then they say that there's like this person, and you're like, oh, have they already found like the infected woman? But it's like the stowaway homeless guy.
Exactly. So we've got to introduce some of the characters here, because there's some key characters when they get on the train. There's the sisters, the older sisters.
The older sisters. In their 60s, you've got like the nice one and the angry one, and the nice one with eggs. But the angry one is like, when you have time to make this egg, I'm angry.
Doing the odd couple thing,
which I also really loved. Again, bearing in mind, sleep deprived, a bit crazy on Tuesday night myself. I was like, she's just like shelling an egg. I love this.
I love it. And just take it. She's like, I don't want to take it. She's like, just take the egg.
And it's only an hour train. I don't need to eat your egg. I'm like, eat your egg.
Why did you bring eggs?
Check it out. I boiled an egg.
And then, so we've got them. We've also got, sitting near them is the big businessman who's going to appear again later on, the CEO.
He's going to be important.
Bad man businessman.
And he's, he's worried. He's looking at the news a lot, but hasn't really been saying very much. But he features early on. We also have the baseball team, because I also found that scene really weird. So they're in a different carriage, but it's all these dudes that are going to play baseball. And then this one gal comes on from their school or whatever, like their cheerleader, but just the one. And then there's that kind of awkward thing where there's the kind of quieter dudes of the baseball team that because she's got a crush on him,
and then basically like propositions him, and then they all start chanting for like him to accept her or something.
This seemed like something cultural that maybe doesn't doesn't have a direct translation. It doesn't.
And then there was also, so we were introduced as well to the train conductors, because and that they're clearly quite formal about stuff, because right at the start when we're getting on the train, there's the woman that doesn't quite have her scarf sorted, and the dude who is going to appear again, the male conductor, like he's like, oh, sort yourself out.
And she's like,
thanks, sorted, arranged. And then of course my favorite characters. So what happens before the scene you're saying is the little girl decides she needs to go to the bathroom.
To go take a whiz.
Yep. And then she befriends my favorite characters in the film, the dude whose wife is pregnant. So it's like, oh no, there's two people in there. The working
class man and the pregnant wife.
Yeah.
Or
so it's like,
partner.
So she wanted to use the toilet and went, no, there's two people in there. But at that point, I have to say again, I was very sleepy. I thought that was creepy. I thought like he was talking about there were people having a bit of a sexy thing. Like that was what I
thought as well, because there were weird noises, and he was standing outside being like, look, you can't go in there. There are two people in there. Like maybe go down.
And I was like,
you're standing guard while like your friends are like,
this is weird.
And so the little girl continues, his director's like, they're probably going to be a while, and we're like, okay, big perf, whatever. And then so she wanders on to another carriage, and we've got to bear in mind she's a very small child. She's very
like,
young,
what, 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's very.
I would guess, like seven.
Yeah.
So she's still wandering off her own because her dad's asleep, and she goes to try and use another bathroom, but this is when they're told there's someone in there.
Yeah. She's 6 or 7, and it has to be said, she does a fantastic job throughout.
I love her.
She's an insanely good actor, like insanely good. Yeah, for sure.
And so that was when the conductor is called, because there's someone in the toilet, and we're like, oh, here we go. It's going to be the zombie, and on this little 6-7-year-old is on her own, and the zombie's going to come out. But that's when they discover the homeless dude that has also snuck onto the train. And then he starts muttering,
everyone's dead, they're all dead, everyone's dead. So he's clearly seen, he seems to have stowed away on board the train because he was somewhere where the zombies were, and has had some kind of terrible time.
And then in the meantime,
but that's when we get our first lesson of treating everyone well, right, because then one of the adults says to her, like, if you don't study this is how you end up, and she's like, my mum says people.
Oh no, it's bad guy. It's bad guy.
It's a bad guy says it.
Bad guy.
Yeah,
It's
he's
bad guy.
there. Yeah.
The
It's
CEO man.
patriarchy / presbyter.
Yeah,
says
and then
this.
and she's like, yeah, people who say that like aren't good people. Then he goes like, well, maybe your mother's not that well educated or something. I was like, what are you doing talking to this small child?
But this guy's quite important too, because
Yeah.
so we talk about like the redemption of this guy, like so the father figure trying to kind of mend his ways, and this guy is basically like,
he's the anti-redemption.
Yeah, he's the anti-redemption. It's like, if you don't, this is Darth Vader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy is Darth Vader, and it's like Luke is like, if you turn to the dark side, this is the path you'll be on forever, and you'll never get off it. Which, you know, we need him. We need him in the film because he's going to do some bad stuff. So, infected lady who lolloped onto the train collapses in the vestibule.
Yeah.
Which is a word I was reminded about during the watching of this film, and I'm now really enjoying vestibule. Collapses in the vestibule. One of the stewards runs over. Is like, "Oh my god, are you okay?"
One who fixed a little thing.
One who fixed the thing. Yeah, it runs over and is like, "Are you okay?" And you know, doesn't really know what to do. Is calling the chief steward to say, "Come and help me."
Yeah.
And snuffs it basically. The infected lady snuffs it. And then, of course, immediately comes back to life.
Perfect. Like, she's like, "What do I do?" And then there's the shot, and you can see the snuffed woman lying behind her, just like, "Don't turn your back." And then, like, the body comes up, and then,
I have to say, that's also another one of my favorite things about this film. And I said it to Steve before he watched it, but it was just the reanimation in this film, like the becoming a zombie, the physical movement in it. Like, I loved all of that. I just thought they really nailed that. It was gross and a lot of it looked effective and very well choreographed. I don't know, it was dancey. It was like dancey.
It looked analog. Like, it looks like they just had people who could do these things.
Yeah.
Doing them. Yeah, which was very, very nice. So that's when everything kind of kicks off. So at this point, we basically have the infection run rampant throughout the carriage.
Yeah, like, and then like all fucking hell breaks loose, right? It's basically like the zombie woman attacks the conductor woman, the whatever, and then it's just like fucking people are screaming and running, and then it's like, it's real. It definitely accelerates.
And then we also, I think right about this point, get signs of, again, this little girl's amazing morals, which presumably are coming from her mother. I don't know, because her dad's just like, leave these folk, like, because they want to close the door, keep the zombies out. And her friends, the pregnant women that have been in the toilet, and her partner, she's like, no, they're my friends, let them in. And she just had a brief conversation with them. Yeah. And she was adamant. She's like, no, let them in. But he was like, oh no, in situations like this, you look after yourself. And she was just horrified that her dad was saying this, absolutely horrified with him. But they are saved, they're fine. So we still got...
Well, he shuts the door in their face, and then they eventually get there and the door is opened again. Which becomes an important moment because it gets mirrored later in the film. But yeah, lets them in, and he's like, you know, what do you think you're doing? Like, I think maybe you owe me an apology. And he kind of doesn't say anything. He's just kind of looking after himself and looking after his daughter. So even though there's been these kind of gestures and moments, he's clearly feeling uncomfortable with himself, but he's still, now that the chips are down, behaving in this very, it's just you and me, kid, kind of, and fuck all these people kind of way.
Yeah, sure.
So at this moment, we get a bit of respite from the zombies. We get a first rule, which is that the zombies have to see you. So they do a very clever thing. They put newspaper up on the window and then squish it with some water, and then the zombies can't see, and the zombies stop trying to get through.
Was it the pregnant women that did that? It was something, but I was just like, oh, that's amazing.
The pregnant women are one of the sisters.
But yeah, because they also, so first they discover that the zombies couldn't open the door.
Yes.
Yeah, because that was the thing where the father of the baby in the stomach. When they get through and he's holding it and it's like, how do you lock this? And the guy's like, I don't think they know. Like, I don't think you need to. I don't think they know how to open the door. And he lets it go. And we established that although they are relics of people who once lived, they can't remember how to open the door mechanism in the train. So that's fine. So they can't see you, they don't want to eat you, and they can't open the door.
Yes. So they're stupider than velociraptors in movie terms.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, velociraptors are far superior hunters. Correct.
So at this point, we've established this. We're in this relatively safe situation, and the train driver, who like, as we'll get on to, I think Sophie's frozen. As we'll get on to is absolutely.
I can still hear you though, and you're frozen for me.
Yeah. Like, this guy is employee of the month. Like, absolutely hands down employee of the month.
He's another one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
But we'll get to that later. But he comes on the intercom. It's like, all right, guys, we're actually going to stop at the next stop, because it's safe. I've been told by control it's safe. We're going to stop there, and we're going to disembark, and the military are going to take over.
Yeah.
So we stop, and people file out, and there's no one there, which is a bit creepy. Everyone's like, "Where's the military?"
Yeah.
Father guy has been on the phone to his mate who lives there, and is like, "Hey mate, are you there? What's going to happen?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're going to be taken into quarantine. You don't really want that. So come meet me at the East Square. Don't go to the main square."
Yeah.
So everyone piles off the train and is moving kind of single file, like down these like police lines to where they're supposed to go. And they file off.
So while that's happening though, meanwhile, the CEO dude has been, so the bad dude, the dude we don't like, has been on the phone to his pals because he's involved in transport. And he heard that actually Busan is okay. Busan is a good place to go. So he's still at the train communicating with the train staff.
Yeah, that's right.
Saying, we should just keep going on the train. And they're like, no, we need to get the passengers back. And he's like, no, we should just go. And you're right, that the rest of them are like going out with this one dude, the younger dude, the father of the kid, the protagonist, is making his own way because he's got his contacts, whereas the older CEO dude is like, I've got my contacts. I'm going to tell you who I am because I'm important. I'm going to get back in the train and you're going to drive me to Busan. Sod all these people.
Yeah, fuck all these other people. No worries about them.
But the train staff are like, no, let's go and get the passengers back, get them back in the train. Yes, we'll all go on to Busan.
And then in the meantime, the homeless guy had overheard the dad talking, and he was like, I heard you say this stuff about quarantine. I'm not going with them. I'm coming with you. But it turns out there might have been zombies at that train station.
There may have been some zombies at that train station. So everyone kind of encounters zombies at the bottom of their respective escalators.
Yes, that's right. Just zombies everywhere. No one's going to any squares.
No one's going anywhere. So everyone's running away from the zombies.
They're all military zombies everywhere.
Super militarized zombies. It's just like they've got their camo and their scary weapons, but it doesn't matter because it's like they are warriors, but zombies.
And we have a moment here. So the dad and the little girl get separated here. Mm-hmm. It looks like little girl's going to get eaten. I really thought she might, because this film is fairly forthright in its willingness to kill members of the cast,
including small children. Doesn't matter. Small children are people too.
Indiscriminate, or possibly equal opportunity. I'm not sure. But working class man comes in, elbows a zombie in the face, saves her little ass.
Goes, come with us.
Yes, come with us, and they run away. Dad gets tackled by a zombie, so he's separated. He puts a book in its mouth, which seems like a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And then someone chucks a jacket over its head so it can't see. So he gets the opportunity to run away, and they're behind some glass doors trying to lock it. At this moment.
So who was the ones remaining? So the ones that were keeping the doors locked were working class man, the dad, and also
to clarify, it's not Jimmy Barnes.
No, but like we can call him Korean Jimmy Barnes if that's helps.
Yeah, Korean Jimmy Barnes.
The dad, and also one of the baseball players.
Yeah,
three of the baseball players. I think so.
Three of the baseball players.
Yeah, there were some.
Yeah, you're right.
Most of the baseball team got turned into zombies, but there were 3 remaining. So there's all these guys. Send everyone to go and try and get on the train, but they're like trying to get the door locked. So the horde of zombies can't follow everyone.
Yes. And they I really like that scene because it's like they're holding the door and like the zombies are pushing and they're pushing back, right? So like you've just got this glass kind of moving like this. Then they get it secured, and then this is how physics works. It's true because it's now secured top and bottom, and the zombies are pushing and it shatters the glass. But then it's just like this beautiful waterfall of zombies through the panes of glass. It's just like. And it's just this, imagine filming that scene. How much fun would that be? Like, all right, it's the glass scene. And just like everyone fall. And they go like, boom, boom. I really liked it. It was very good.
Beautiful. It was beautiful. So they're running away. So in the meantime, all of the other characters who are going to survive have secured themselves in the front of the train, effectively, in like
Except
one of the first carriages.
but then you've got the small girl, the pregnant woman, the good old woman.
Yes.
Yes.
Is it just those three and the homeless
man?
man?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
they're on a rear
so
carriage.
they go to get on, and then there's
Yeah.
like zombies, and they manage to get their way on in a different section to like the people at the main front.
Yeah, that's right.
Which becomes important later.
Does become important, and so the people we have left. So the two of the baseball players get eaten. The less important ones, the one who aren't silent but incredibly attractive.
Yeah, broody. The broody baseball player.
The non-broody baseball players get eaten.
With the love interest. The broody baseball player with the love interest the love interest are both remaining.
The ones who don't have unresolved plot points get eaten.
Yeah. Oh, and that's an important point too. We should stress that the love interest is with the first lot of people, including the CEO. So she's like at the front of the train with them and trying to see what happened to her poor baseball player friends because she's separated from everyone. But she's with the biggest bulk of the passengers, including badass mean CEO person. And
then so once the zombie waterfall happens, we've got these three guys, the dad and Korean Jimmy Barnes and the baseball player, the broody baseball player, running away. Broody baseball player makes it onto the train, onto an unspecified carriage. Then dad makes it on, and now we're waiting for
Jimmy Barnes.
And this was like my first like righteous violence bits of the film, like pure action bits of the film that was just great because the train is moving, right? The train is moving, and this guy is like running to jump on. Yeah, so we're looking like backwards, like down the back of the train. Yeah. And at this point, we see him peel off. Like,
and you're like, what's he doing? That's not how you get on a train.
Yeah. And he picks up a riot shield and a truncheon and shouts at dad, watch out, and smacks these zombies out of the way. And at this time, like the soundtrack picks up and there's like this beat behind it, like this beat drops behind the orchestral stuff. And it just like, it's just, oh my God, it just did it for me.
And I did really like that as he's beating these zombies and he says to the dad, like, watch out. And then the dad does that perfect thing going like, what do you mean? And then like looks this way and pulls his head in just in time for like this like line of zombies to like run past him as well, which it was just like a really nice shot. They're like, what?
Stupendous moment. Yeah. What a great moment. And that's not even the peak of it.
And I love the running after a moving train thing, like the fear that we need to get on or else we definitely will be eaten. And but also
like, but let me pick up this riot shield.
Yeah, it made me laugh watching it because I was just like, because like you're saying, I'm like, what are you doing? Just go on the bloody train. I'm like, yes, look at me go, be all Liam Neeson on this. I'm going, take it.
So he does get on.
He gets on. They find that they're in a carriage by themselves, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. So they're in a carriage by themselves, and then they so in the timeline, the guy, the pretty remaining baseball player.
Oh, we lost Sophie again.
The cheerleader. Did you see? I think when you lose me. Can you hear me? Or when you lose me, which part
your garbles,
you go drunken robot.
Okay, because I like lose your video for a long time. So you're speaking, but you'll both be like, but then you're still talking. Am I back?
You're back.
I'm back and raring to go. But yeah, so it's like so because the idea is they need to get from they're in a carriage.
They're in coach 9.
That's right.
One of the sisters and the daughter and the pregnant lady are in coach 12 in a bathroom stuck between two lots of zombies in both carriages.
They're in terrible trouble.
Yes. And all the remaining survivors are in coach 15.
Yeah.
Which confusingly, even though the numbers are going up, is the front of the train.
Yeah, because there's this kind of thing where it's like we're here and like, are we really gonna, that's right. So it's like they find out that, so it must be the pregnant wife who calls the husband first, says like, we're here, come help us. And then he's like, and then the dad is like, oh, is that my daughter? And then like, it's like Jimmy Barnes does this weird thing where he's kind of like, what? Like you're gonna go and get them and then what are you gonna do? Then it turns out the rest of them are at the front of the train in safety. Yeah. And then he realizes that like to get there, they've got to go via the track.
Because that's the thing.
His pregnant wife anyway.
Because I think the reason they discover that is because Broody baseball player ends up being able to call his cheerleader. And she's like, this is where we're at. So they get that information.
That's right, because he calls and he's like, I'm so sorry, like they're all dead. She's like, where are you? And he's like, I'm sorry, like everyone else. I'm like, they, you know, so that's when they first got trained. That's right. Yeah.
So then with me.
Yeah, and so then basically they're like, okay, they're at the front, and then it finds out that they're in the middle. They're like, okay, so what we need to do is to get to like the front to the safety, we've got to go via the trapped people. Like 2 of these people are loved ones of 2 of the people anyway, so that's convenient. But the bit that made me laugh the most is when they're getting ready to go through, and it's like they are taping themselves up, and it's like, you know, they get all like prepared, so like we've got a baseball, we've got all this stuff, and then it's like they step into the zombie carriage, and it goes like whoosh, and it zooms into them. There's music, and like I pissed myself laughing because like at that stage I was like, this is now a parody of itself. They're just like, we're gonna fucking kill some zombies.
Yeah, it was so good.
And also like I think even before that, but the bit that I was loving though was there's still that lack of trust between the dad and working class man.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
Yeah, they're like working out where he should go in the lineup of walking through because they just think he's useless. So like, of course, our hero, our working class man, has the truncheon and whatnot. The baseball player, of course, has a baseball bat. Brilliant. Suited and booted hedge fund manager, who's useless, was like, right, well, you're useless to this, so you like float about.
So Jimmy Barnes kicks some ass here.
Yeah.
Jimmy Barnes is in the front, and he just
in the vanguard
with his like bare hands kicks some zombie ass, and it's great.
Yes.
I mean, it's just fabulous to watch. And the other 2 hold their own, but Jimmy Barnes is the star.
Yeah, I tell you, he's my favorite.
And then this is the bit where, so just before they're going to go in, they're going through a tunnel. They're like, let's wait to get out of the tunnel.
No. This comes. This comes. So that.
I reckon isn't it before they walk into the first one where they like, so isn't it like they haven't said anything? We don't learn anything about the tunnel yet, but they specifically say like they get all ready to fight and they're in the darkness, and then they're just like.
No. This is 2 carriages away because they've got 3 carriages to go through, right? So the first one, they just kick ass. So this is where the film just does an amazing job of raising the stakes and raising the stakes and raising the stakes. So first one, they just kick ass. Second one, it's like, how can we raise the stakes? They go in and it's all the remainder of the baseball team.
But when so I've got a question because I can't remember the order of it, but when do they use the mobile phone as a deflection? Is that in the very first carriage? Because this is also what kind of
they just kick ass in the first carriage.
Because there's one where he takes working class man's phone.
No, he definitely does. But the first carriage, they just kick ass and shut the door behind them. Second carriage, it might be here that the lights go out, but second carriage they go in and it's just all the baseball players. So Broody baseball player just can't do anything because like he's not just like killing zombies to get where he needs to go. It's all his mates. Yeah. His mates are there like this, and not just his mates, but like his teammates, his fucking teammates. And he's like clearly popular on the team. It's not like an antagonistic situation. Like his teammates are there. And he has to fight his way through his teammates, so he's
I still
kind of
think
frozen.
The first one is
no, because it's the last. This is where they figure it out. So he's frozen.
But then they
implement
like that in the last one. I think the discovery about the phone and the discovery about the darkness are different ones, and then the last one they use darkness. So
the last one they use. So the second one. So what happens in the second one is baseball player's frozen. The other 2 get into trouble and are both pinned by a zombie. Then the lights go out. Yeah. And the zombies lose them.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. But like, my point from before was all they said when they went into the first one, all they said was like, they specifically do this weird thing where they say, let us wait until it's like we're out of the tunnel. And then they go and you're like,
that's right. So they do wait for,
you're right.
They wait for the light. That's right. Yeah. They wait for the light.
Yeah. And so then I think then Karen is right. I think because they get, there's one bit where they get to, I think they get past the first carriage. I think they then use the phone. Then they
No. I'm positive.
But I guess Sophie, he watched it most recently.
So I'm positive because the way they get out of the second carriage is the zombies lose them. Then some baseballs fall down and the zombies move towards the baseballs. And then Dad takes the baseball bat and taps the luggage rail. And the zombies all go towards that. And then they make it to the next carriage. And then he's like, give me your phone.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So
and then so then they're in the tunnel and they move their way up and then they chuck the phone down the aisle and they give it a call. All the zombies run towards the phone and then they make it to the next one.
Okay, that makes sense. I just knew the phone was in there somewhere. I
Phone was
forgot
in
about
there
the
somewhere.
I forgot about the
Yeah.
baseballs.
But like that was it. It's the three carriages, and just like something completely different happens in everyone. So the first stakes raging. The first one is just kick ass and it's great, and then the second one is we've got to kill this guy's mates, which is harrowing.
Yeah.
And then the third one is like we've learned this new thing about the
and because
zombies.
it's between. So once they've done the first two, and then they reach their loved ones. Then they go in and then they chat to them. Then they go into their own toilet. And then while they're all sassing each other, Dad is looking up on his phone when the next tunnel is coming.
That's right.
And it's weird because it's like Jimmy Barnes is just like, oh, are you like pleased you got to talk to your daughter again, like because of me, and is being a bit of a
I did that. Yeah.
right? But then he looks this thing up, and then he's like, okay, like we need to, like we're gonna have this many minutes, and then if like after that tunnel, then there's going to be another one in this point. And then like Jimmy Barnes is almost a bit like people don't respect their dads enough. And at the beginning I was like, is he taking the piss? And I was like, no, I think he's being serious. So he sort of flipped from like, I'm being a bit of a jerk and I don't like you, to like, you know, you haven't spent that much time with your daughter. Like when she's older, she'll understand why you work so hard. And I was like, now we're all friends. Is this?
Yeah, I quite like that though, because I thought that was I guess he had his own worries about being a parent, and that was what was kind of starting to be revealed when he's being very harsh and judgy on this dude, but then he's actually like, oh, that could be me, was kind of how I took that. Like that's,
oh yeah, like I don't think it's like unreasonable at all, but it was, I think it was just interesting because
it was a very fast arc.
Actually, and then it's like, and that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And so then they used the cover of darkness.
Yeah, they've also had this shared experience now where they fought through 3 carriages of hell to like get to their loved ones together, and I guess that might.
And then I
have a question, and it might not happen till later, but like, when is it that the hedge fund manager calls his junior staff and realizes?
Oh, that's later.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then they collect the fairly defenseless loved ones.
Yes.
And then in the cover of darkness, they basically use the luggage rails and they will crawl through this like zombie carriage, which is like, imagine, every time I think back to that small girl child, and I was like, how fucking terrifying would that be? And it's like, she just gets it done. She's like, I've got to get it done. I'm just going to crawl. I'm just going to crawl, and I'm crawling. And then they get to the end.
Yes.
Right. And then we're just at, they almost, and so then we've got Dad and we've got homeless guy. Everyone else has got through.
Yes.
And then basically then we're out of the tunnel and it's light again, and they both hide behind seats, and a zombie turns around and you're like, what's going to happen? It's like, there's no one there. And you're like, okay, because they're hiding behind seats and the other ones have scattered. And then they're just like, okay, we're going to make a run for it. And they do a countdown, and it's like 3, 2, and then the homeless man steps on like a can, and it goes like crunk, and he's like, run. I really liked that, because you're just like, oh, it's tense enough, and it's like, dude stepped on a can.
Oh,
so
no.
Also, that seems amazing. And I also think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you saw more recently than me, but like, it seemed that was the start of, well, not just the start, but a continuation of the redemption, because actually it could have just been the homeless man that was left.
Yeah, so homeless
that's right.
Like,
he goes back for him, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, the homeless. Yeah, that's right. So the homeless man, does he trip? Something happens, and he
falls.
Like,
I think he falls.
Yeah,
he trips over something when he's
and
trying
so
to get off the luggage rack, and
that's right.
So he's stuck. But the dad goes back to try and
he could have kept
and then
falling.
gets them to like hide behind seats, be quiet, and then they're trying to, like, say, do this countdown to run, only they step on the can.
Okay, so at this point they run in to this last carriage, and this is the last carriage before
the
ostensible safety.
Yeah.
Because what has happened in that we haven't said is, at one stage there is a text message sent by the pretty baseballer to the cheerleader saying, hey, like, we've just rescued some people, we're on our way. And then asshole CEO is like, I'm sorry, what? Like, they're going to come through this carriage of monsters. Like, how do you know they're not infected? Like, they can't fucking come here. So we've already had this like precursor to like, these people are almost at safety. And yet the people on the side of safety, or like who have been sort of hoodwinked by this like asshole, are just like, well, we don't know, like no one knows if anyone's fine. Like, why are we going to let these people who have just been in like the disease pit of zombies come into like our safety zone? Yes. So that's already happened.
So this is our setup, right? This is our setup for what comes.
And then, yes, now we're in the final carriage.
So we're in the final carriage. Homeless man runs through. They shut the door onto some zombies, but they don't have the door shut. And Korean Jimmy Barnes is pushing from the side of the door to keep
He's
it
just
shut.
muscling. He's muscling that door shut. He can't get it shut, but he's holding it. He's holding it.
British baseball player has his but they get to the far door, they won't let them in, so the race is now to get the door open on the far side where a safety is before the zombies come through this back door. And they won't let them in, and they've tied all these shirts and ties up to the door handle so that it stays shut.
And then like pretty baseball player calls cheerleader being like, yo, we're fucking here, let us in. She is being like held with a hand on her mouth. The phone is like ringing, and is it CEO who smashes it?
CEO smashes it. It's always CEO.
It's always, I don't know why I even questioned it. I was like,
something
CEO
bad happens.
It. Yeah.
If something bad happens by a character who's not on the road to redemption, it's him.
It's him, yeah.
And the other thing I guess is so CEO is definitely leading it, but he's very much brought on board the conductor,
who's like the guy in charge. Like
and then winning him over means that seems like you've got a control figure even for the carriage anyway, because it's someone that's actually a member of staff in the train. So those two have become a bit of a partnership where the conductor is looking to the CEO for guidance as to how to behave. And then everyone else seems to be following that because that's the sort of natural order of things, because this is the conductor telling them what.
Yeah, and he's in charge of the train, and we're in the train, and like we follow the rules of the guy in charge of us in the train. Yeah, for sure.
So now we have Korean Jimmy Barnes holding the door shut at the back, and we have British baseball player beats down the glass door that's locked and runs through the vestibule, gets his arm through the next door before they try and shut it on him. And then Presbyterian Patriarchy CEO man shuts the door on his arm. And everyone goes to try and help him. And then everyone in the front carriage who's not the cheerleader is trying to shut the door on his arm, basically.
Yeah, which is a bit much. It's just like you're breaking the young man's arm, and he's very pretty.
Yeah. So Dad's at the back. He's helping out Jimmy Barnes, and he's beating the zombies. But even then, Korean Jimmy Barnes has to put his hand on the side of the door where the zombies are and gets bitten.
And he
gets bit real good. So this is, I mean, I think this is the first zombie film where I've shed a tear, and I think this is where I shed my first one. Is when Korean Jimmy Barnes makes his moment of silence, because he knows he's dead. He knows that's going to be it.
And his pregnant wife, or partner rather,
she's like literally just there, because she's in like limbo, right? Because we're holding the back, we're trying to get through the front, and then you've got a small crying child, and you've got like pregnant woman in limbo, just being like, we can't do anything, and we're very sad.
Yes. And like, we get these, and we have basically an exact mirroring of the moment earlier where father shuts the door in the face of Korean Jimmy Barnes. So now they're trying to get through a door which is being shut in their face.
Yeah.
And we see one of the things I loved, like we got these great shots of like CEO Presbyterian Patriarchy man seeing, not just like making these decisions because he's bad, but like seeing the little girl who's clearly not infected,
just standing there weeping.
Yes. So he's seeing these things, and he's looking at the consequences of his actions, and he's following through anyway. Which I just thought just really rammed it home and was really beautiful. So Korean Jimmy Barnes is like, go get out here to Dad, like look after my wife, please. Look after my wife, please. Like the zombies come through, and he fucking gives it before he
holds that door. Like it's a very like a Hodor moment, right? So it's like he's turning into a zombie, and like it's like with all of his last ounce of person inside, he is just like holding them there, and then eventually it's too much, and then he waterfalls as well.
Well, he comes through before the waterfall. He like punches a zombie, picks it up, turns it sideways, and uses it as a battering ram to hold the other zombies back. Like, is there anything that Korean Jimmy Barnes can't do other than survive this film?
I was going to say, other than not look at zombie and like live out the rest of his days in happiness with his wife and his new child.
Yes. So Dad and pregnant wife run away. They get the door open. They make their way in. They shut it behind them. Moment of relative safety, or so we think. Goes and gives Presbyterian Patriarchy CEO man a good punch in the face, which he's had coming for a long time.
And he's like, what were you fucking doing, asshole?
Yes.
And then
he turns them all against them. He turns everyone in the carriage against
CEO
them.
is like, yo, this guy is infected.
Yeah,
We gotta
clearly, 'cause
fucking get rid of them because like he's infected because he is challenging me and I find that threatening. So let's take all of these people who've just got in and fucking send them away. They can't be here because I don't like people challenging my authority, which this man is doing publicly.
Yes. So they get sent to the vestibule in front of this carriage, even closer.
But meanwhile, just before all that, when is it the woman's sister dies? The older woman's sister dies. So she doesn't make it through the door when the others do.
But she also doesn't really try.
Doesn't really try. Yeah, that was one of the bits I found weird.
It's that thing where she's kind of there, and then the mean sister like sees her and is like perks up because she's basically being catatonic since she thinks she's lost her sister at the train station, right? So she then sees her sister like down there, kind of perks up, says her name, like goes to walk towards it, but then the sister just kind of like there, smiles at her sister and then just like lets her, and then gets like sort of like a zombie comes at her from behind and she looks, because you're just looking at her face and not much else, and she does look shocked when it like comes at her, but it's like she's not really accelerating at that door in a way that seems to suggest she's intending to save herself.
Does she shut the door?
I don't think she did. I don't think she played like an active role in being helpful. She was just there.
So she sacrificed herself. So we're down to one.
And you see her through the glass, you know, because all the zombies are trying to get in, and you can see her little creepy eyes there, just like in amongst the zombies, just like. And again, like not really helping, just kind of a little bit pushing.
So cheerleader gal is also banished with the infected stuff, but I think maybe also self-banished because she's like,
I don't want to be here with these.
I don't want to be with them.
No. Yeah. So Dream Team is in the front vestibule, even closer in business class, I think, because they go into the bathroom at some point and it looks considerably nicer than the washrooms. Yeah.
I think
they're in the sexy vestibule, and that's important because this is where the film doubles down on its point that if you're a dickhead to people, you're going to get your comeuppance.
Yeah, because there is a bit where when they get banished to the vestibule, like, you know, it's the CEO who starts it, but then everyone
joins in.
Yeah, like everyone is like, get out.
You're left in no doubt that everyone is complicit in this act. Everyone is taking part
as to what happens next to them all.
Yes,
but I still have a question, and maybe it's still not yet. But when does the hedge fund manager, when does the dad speak to his colleague? Is that still in this?
That still hasn't happened.
Okay,
no, that still hasn't.
Next after, like, isn't it in the vestibule after what's about to happen now? Yeah.
So here we have a moment of introspection from remaining sister who sees her dead sister, like zombified sister, through the glass.
Yeah.
Saying, you know, why do you always put yourself before others? Why have you done that?
She's like, she's angry, muttering at her dead sister about why her sister always puts other people first.
Yeah, but you've got this cabin full of dickheads who've like banished everyone else.
And they're all fighting. Right?
They're all fighting. They're having a terrible time.
They're very busy.
Locking the door and whatnot, demanding more ties be put on the door to keep it shut. Keeping busy, basically, because they're probably quite upset. And then we have maybe, I don't know if I've seen this before, remaining sister commits suicide by zombie.
Yeah. So, you know, she's muttering and she walks up to that door and she sees her sister through the door and she fucking opens that door.
Yeah, and it's like they all, like, because that was the thing. I was like, she's not going to do it. She's not actually going to do it. Oh no, she's doing it.
Yeah, she fucking did it. And so of course she gets zombied, but then so does every other person in the carriage.
Everyone gets zombied.
Yeah.
Or so we think.
Or so we think at this point. Or so we think.
Or so we think, exactly.
So at this point...
Okay, thank you. I've been waiting for this point.
At this point, we see Dad, and he's in the bathroom.
Okay.
And he's wiping the blood off himself. He's having a chat with his subordinate that he was chatting to earlier. And it's revealed that the company that caused the leak is this biotech company that what I took from this conversation was it was basically the center of their investment plan for all their clients.
I think so, yeah.
So they were presumably very heavily invested in this company. So the subordinate on the end of the phone is like, did we do this? Are we in some way complicit?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. But then he hangs up the phone and he's deeply.
And then it's like, as he's doing this, he is washing the blood off.
Yes.
It's amazing. Yes. It's like such good symbolism because it's like his hands are all like swollen and bruised and bloody, and he's like washing his like fucked up hands where he's after he's just told like this guy, it's like, no, it's not our fault. washing the blood off my hands.
Yeah. I know. So that's that moment.
Thank you.
And he has a good cry. And this is like,
Yeah.
this, I thought maybe this was the peak of his redemption. I thought maybe this was him now. Like, I thought that might be, okay, cool. You've turned around. Like, I believe that you're turned around, and that's it for you. And now we just need to career towards the end. Now we just need to get to Busan, and the film's gonna end.
Yes.
But it's
So much more.
sadly not to be. Because basically before we can get to Busan, we're at some station before Busan, Daegu or something.
Is it, hold on, just to interrupt, is it at that stage that he has the deep and meaningful with the daughter who suggests that the reason that she fucks up her recital is because she learnt this song for him and he didn't turn up, and then when she looked up and he wasn't there, she couldn't finish? So that was the kind of like, you invest, it was like, you're the fund manager, like your main thing is this biotech, they fucked everything up, and then he goes back and is like, oh, okay, so like my business life has destroyed everything, and like here's my personal life that has now suffered. And she was basically, yeah, and so it's that whole like, it's like the double whammy. He gets like smacked and then he gets smacked again. I feel like that's right. Like that's now he's been redeemed. He's gone like,
been redeemed, yeah. Because again, there's a really nice moment where she's like, I learned the song for you, and because she sang the song really badly, I learned the song for you and I didn't see you there, that's why I sang it so shit.
Yeah, I forgot it, yeah.
But then she says, she looks into his eyes and says, will you stay with me? And he takes her hand and plays with her hair, and it's really implied, like, yes, I'm never ever again, like, and again, it's like, redemption arc done, like complete, excellent, fabulous. Yeah. But we're also not at Busan yet.
No.
Which is the promise of the title. So at this point, the train gets stopped because there's
Daigon, Daisu, Daigen, Daiji.
At the station.
East Daegu.
Daegu station.
Daegu, look.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
I made a lot of sounds and they were all incorrect, but I got close.
Yes. So the driver has to stop. He makes an announcement. The driver has absolutely no idea if anyone's left on the train.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah. No.
But then he's aware, because he's basically like, if you have survived, like we can't get through, I'm going to get us a train. I'm putting it on the far left track. Like if you have managed, if you're still alive, make your way to the far left track. I'm getting us a train. We're still getting to Busan, guys. It's fine. He could be talking to no one.
Employee of the fucking month.
I think maybe year, Dave.
Yeah,
I think we can up
I think we can go above a month.
If there's a scheme for that, then yes, by all means.
Maybe we just give him the rest of the months of the year.
The remaining year. So this guy gets off the train. Everyone hears this message and is like, cool, we'll get off the train too. Yeah. Unbeknownst to us, but knownst to the writers and to the characters, Presbyterian patriarchy man and conductor man, his subordinate, have survived.
They've hid in a bathroom when everyone in their carriage got eaten.
They hear this message, and so patriarchy man has a look outside the door and sees a bunch of zombies. A
lot of fucking zombies. Zombies that are going to be in their way, whichever way they go.
Yes. Comes back in. Conductor man says to him, is the coast clear? CEO says yes. You go first.
Opens the door and legit.
This is a real
at zombie.
Yes,
this is a diversion and fucking legs it.
Fucking Hansels and Gretels him right into the oven.
And I mean, all of that was incredibly upsetting, but then I also was just like, and he didn't even fucking shut the door when he left the train.
Man.
And I was like, you're bad, you're so bad anyway, but also we have established that if you close the door, they can't quite work out how to, so like, at least take the time to close the door behind you after you've screwed this arse over.
If not for anyone else, for you.
Yeah. Because meanwhile, our heroes, our main cast, had already left the train and were going on their way, sneaky, quietly.
I love it. They're walking down and it's just this like vision of this nightmare fucking train that they're walking by, which is, because all of these carriages are full of zombies now and they're just like walking and it's just, just like, shit. Because
at this point, we're still left with dad, daughter, pregnant woman, homeless man, baseball man, Dream Team, and cheerleader.
Dream Team.
They were our dream team. So they're heading, and then we suddenly have CEO lets all of the zombies off the train because,
Yes, and also by this point, so the train driver, employee of the month, has secured a diesel train.
I love that he goes like finds like looks in the train, there's no one in the train, goes, it just starts up a train, just gets the train going. And I was like, how do you know? I was like, he's a train driver, he knows how to do it. But I feel like I was like, what kind of person could just start a train? I was like, literally that man.
So he sets off and he's got the train not very far at all before he's like, what the fuck? And he sees this similar model diesel engine come in the opposite direction,
on fire,
billowing from it. So our heroes hear this coming. They see the ground start to shake, and over the top of the carriage that they've left, I think they see this flaming thing go past, and then it just like crashes, and we don't know what's happened to them. Like
they do, I think, just before that happens, because like they're together, and the cheerleader and the pretty baseball player have gone up ahead, and they've gone like, we found it, guys. Like, here's the train. Like, this is the one. And then the flaming train comes.
That's right.
Like you said, like, we don't know what's happened. It's just like smash, and they've been separated because the group had separated. So then we've got baseball player and cheerleader, and then we've got the other 4 members of the dream team as separate teams now.
At this point, I think CEO man bumps into cheerleader and baseball player.
Because what happens is, like, so I think they're in this bit where it almost looked like there was a train and then this other thing's come in, and they're almost like sandwiched between 2 trains. So the only way out is to go through a train.
Yes.
So what you see is, like, they go into a train, they open the door, they look, it's fine. They get into there, they go to open the other door to get out the other side. And in the background, you see asshole CEO come through another train, chased by all the zombies that he let out.
That's right.
And then he comes up and literally, grabs the cheerleader and just throws her to the zombies.
Yes.
He's doing a lot of like sacrificing people very actively.
Yes.
Oh, mate.
This is his strategy, and it's worked for him once, so he's sticking with it. He's doubling down. There's a lot of doubling down on this film. They really double down on the moral message of the film, and they really double down on this character in particular, that he's going to do whatever he has to do to survive. And
because then the pretty baseball player, like, who's been trying to open the door when this has happened, realizes that she's now a zombie, and does he just like go and like cradle her, and then
he just stays with her,
and she zombifies, and then like invites him, and they're just like, that's it, like, good on him for sticking by her.
So at this point, what remains of the dream team, which is homeless guy, daughter, and father,
and pregnant women,
wake up under a partially knocked over train.
It's probably the slightly scariest situation to wake up in, because it's like they're there, and then like, you could hear like it moves a bit, and they realize that at any second they could be crushed by this train that's going to like fall on them because it's only being half held up.
And there are also zombies bashing at the window of the
train.
So they're like, it's not only the train that might fall on them, but the zombies are also
really helping the train fall or trying to get in, either, which not great.
So I didn't know what was going to happen at this point in the film. I was like, you guys are fucked. Like, this is like when you watch one of those documentaries about an airplane disaster, and you're just like, there's no way you can survive this.
Did I tell you that I thought I'd seen this movie. I think I saw half of this movie on a plane, because it was when they get to Busan that I have no memory of anything happening after that. So I think it must have been like a plane thing, and I fell asleep, or it was like a mealtime, and I maybe never went back and watched the rest of this movie, or I fell asleep in it on a plane and I didn't realize, because then it was like, from when it just reminded me when I had no idea what was going to happen. I was like, at that stage I was like, what happens in this movie? Turns out I didn't know. Like, I've not seen the rest of it. So the rest of it was like, I remembered bits and pieces of it, but like not, but then at this stage, like, I am completely I was like, how the fuck do we get out of this? How? Dave,
so father crawls away and finds a little way out, manages to crawl out through a little gap into the open air. At this point, some shit falls down and covers the gap, which gives us the next moment of sacrifice, which comes unexpectedly from homeless man, because one of the windows cracks open, some zombies fall out. He grabs, like, there's like some wires hanging down, and he's like holding back the wires, holding back the zombies, and is like, get out of here. Dad's like struggling, doing the like superhuman parent strength thing to get this thing moved out of the way, moves it, and then homeless guy's like, just go.
Just fucking go.
Just leave me.
And I like that, because there was that point, because again, it was with they have very limited interactions, but the dad had helped the homeless dude
Yes.
when they were in that scary situation where the homeless dude could have been left. And now it's like, do you know what? Look after your daughter, off you go, kind of thing. I will take one for the team and let the zombies and the train crush me.
Yes, so the daughter and pregnant lady are out. I'm sure all these characters have names.
I know they do, but I don't think I even I don't know. Like I
feel like I could, when they would say the name and they had the subtitle, I could recognize each of the characters, but now I have no. But then I feel like often I have no recollection of the characters' names the day after I've watched them.
Yeah, I have a terrible memory of names generally. But like this is where it gets to the point where, do you know what really impressed me? Was how fast he could run holding his, small child but quite large child, because you have to. And also the bloody pregnant woman just like
liking it,
powering it after this diesel train that's going, because there's now all these zombies after them. And they're like, all right, there's a train going.
What happens is we have missed the bit with CEO and the train conductor.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that also happens.
So train conductor is on the train, moseying along at kind of a reasonable speed, looking for survivors. Sees CEO man, with whom he's had no prior dealings, which is the only way you can explain his behavior.
A man needs help. I'm a good person, so I shall go help man.
Yes. So he sees this guy coming, is like, run faster, goes to help him when he like twists his ankle on this truck. CEO man twists his ankle. It does, it's brutal. He falls down, so train driver goes to help him, only to be himself thrown to the zombies for the third time.
Yeah. And during that, the CEO is bitten.
Yes, he must then be bitten. Yes, he must be bitten.
He was bitten at that point.
Yeah.
But he, as you say, I say doubles down, tripling down.
Triples down.
Yeah. Okay,
so now another person.
Yeah. So the train driver is gone. We've got the bitten CEO who's got on the train, and now we're back to
pregnant women running
after this
father with daughter, bombing it after this moving train because they're like, this is our way out. And all of these zombies running after it. So
legging it after
them.
Yeah, the visuals at this point, like all of those zombies.
So they kind of are, the zombies are all converging on them in a V like that. And then there's this moment where they all kind of crash together and there's like a wave of zombies that kind of spill. And they make it onto the train. There are three remaining Dream Team cast members make it onto the train, only for some zombies to latch on to the train.
Yeah, because they go like, and
I think this was also when this was one of the scariest moments. I was like, the fact that they were latching on, and then more zombies would latch on to the next set of zombies, and then more would latch on.
Yeah,
and then other zombies could run up the other zombies. Yeah. So you're like, oh, well, you're obviously going to be dead now. Like, how are you, like, you've got a sea of zombies holding either that, or I thought that the zombies, with the volume of them, they were going to force the train to stop. I thought there were going to be so many people grabbing on.
The zombies.
And so I was like, this train is never getting to Busan. This train is not moving.
And I thought didn't we see some sparking on the wheels? Wasn't the implication that they were slowing the train down? Yeah. So, and that just as an image, like this train with all these humans draped off the back of it was just really striking, really good. So Dad, in full like protect the women mode, like starts kicking at the hand.
I love it. He's literally just like, he's just stamping on these zombies' hands to get them to let go of the goddamn train.
Stampy. Eventually, like dodges a few. It's all very action packed, and gets them to let go. It seems that we're home free, but
it does seem that way, does it not?
But of course, we've still got to deal with
the worst character in the history of the world.
Who were led to believe, like, well, certainly I felt at first appearances he'd already turned into a zombie. That was my thing, because you saw him and it was like cataracty eyes.
But then I feel like that there is this transition period between living and zombie. It's not like Dawn of the Dead, where it's like we die and then we become reanimated.
Yeah.
The ones who are kind of, and because even in that, if you're alive and you get bitten and then you turn, you still kind of, it still kills you and then you turn. Whereas here,
but that was
kind of like, we've got that really obvious transition between like, okay, I'm zombieing, but now I look zombie, but I've still got my human conscience. And then there's a kind of,
Well, because that's the thing.
Time animation.
Because we hadn't seen him for a wee bit, I thought while there was the wave of zombies, maybe he had just died at the front of the carriage and been zombies. And then I was like, but then he opens the door and you're like, hang on, zombies can't use doors. And I'm like, but he looks zombie, but he's not quite zombie. And he's not quite realized his fate by that point.
And he's talking to them, and the dad actually has to say to him, like, you've been bitten. And he's kind of like, what?
Yeah, that's right. You're infected. And he looks at his hand and he's like, please take me home to my mum.
Yeah.
And
she's in Busan. That's where I've been trying to go all along. Just see my mum.
Killing everyone around me. I just want to get home to my mom. And then so then we have this kind of like, they're having like a little bit of a conversation, like, you've been infected, like they're still chatting, and then he kind of is like, now I'm a zombie.
Yeah, he has this beautiful moment where he's upset and his head goes down and he's clearly died, and then you know it's coming, but he looks up and he's a zombie, and it's like quite,
it's still like, oh, there it goes. Now we need to be quite worried about this man. So then it's dad versus zombies CEO.
Yes, so they tussle. They have a jolly good tussle.
Yeah. Boy, do they.
Jolly good action style tussle. Resulting in
the dad getting bitten.
Yeah. Yes, when CEO Man threatens his daughter, him tackling him to the ground, grabbing him around the mouth, and being bitten on the hand.
Yes.
So if you thought his redemption sacrifice arc was done, it was not quite done.
It was not quite done.
No, it's just about.
But then he still is like, he's been bitten, but I'm still a human being, and I still got to get this zombie off the train. And it's my favorite bit where he goes, "That's a chain," and he gets the chain and he like chains it around himself, and he's got the CEO. They're still tussling while he's doing this thing, and he's gone like, "I'm gonna get this guy off the train," and he fucking jumps off the train with his chain harness with the CEO, like drops him to the ground, like smash, and then he's all like, now I'm attached by a chain and I got to get back on this train. It all looked very uncomfortable.
It did. I don't think.
All I'm saying, imagine that, just a chain around the guy and just throw it. I mean, like that. Well, that's going to cause a bruise.
That guy looks like he works his core though.
Yeah, he does. You know, so he's got a pretty face, he's got a good body.
The whole package.
Or he was great. And then he gets back on, and he's just like
shows the people how to work the train.
That's right.
Which he also recognizes that he doesn't really know himself. So he's like pretty sure that's the button to make it stop.
See, I thought this was a bit of unnecessary explanation to the pregnant women, because he's like, come in here.
Mansplaining.
He looks at
he's
the
like,
lever.
I don't know how this works, but you definitely don't know.
Tell you how it works, though.
But also, he looks at
the
lever that says brake.
Yes.
Albeit in English, but presumably everyone has a comparatively, whatever their understanding of English is, presumably it's roughly uniform. Yeah. Points to the lever that says brake and says, I think this is the brake.
Yeah. When it's safe.
Pull that when you want to stop.
Yeah. And you're like,
thanks, buddy.
Thanks, mate.
And then the senior's daughter.
So
this is when I was broken hearted.
This is lovely. So this was he has this flashback sequence here, and I thought this was a bit of a payoff on something that's kind of.
Is that for
that's
goodbye to her?
Oh, he says goodbye to his daughter.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. He says goodbye to the daughter.
And she's just like, don't leave me. And we'd already had that scene where we thought the film might be ending.
He wasn't going to leave her ever again, but now he has to because he's being fucking bitten, and it's just like.
Yeah. And she just keeps crying, and it's so heartbreaking.
And he really doesn't want to leave, and it's just. Terrible, but he does leave her because he's been bitten. Yeah. So he's standing at the back of the train, like
in his transition period.
Transition period. So I thought this kind of touched on something that's hinted at earlier in the film, which is when he's on the phone to his. There's a sequence we didn't talk about where he's on the phone to his mum, who's clearly been bitten, and she's like, look after your daughter and look after your wife. And he's like, why are you breathing all weird? And then she's talking about the wife. And then she kind of goes off the rails about the wife as she just at the moment that she transitions. So there's this kind of thing of your true nature being revealed at the moment that you transition.
I thought she went off about the girl because she was saying the girl was a bitch because like she only cared about seeing the mother.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, it's the little girl that she goes
like so basically so obviously this is like an issue for this thing where it's like the mother, the the child misses the mother so much, and like that seems to be like the theme. And then, but then it's interesting because it turns out that the little girl, who obviously is like very caring because the mother's trained her to give a shit about other people, there's the bit where they that's right, in the very first bit when they're in safety in the train and they're all at the front, and she sits down and there's the older sisters, and this little girl gets up and offers like one of the women a seat. She's like, no, you don't have to. She's like, no, sit down. And then that's when the dad takes her aside and it's like, you didn't have to do that. Like, it's just us, not them. And she makes a comment, grandma's knees were always like sore. So it's this thing where it's like the grandmother had obviously like deep down felt like the daughter didn't like being there because she missed the mother, and she felt like, there wasn't this connection, but like obviously this like there, so it's just this, oh my God, I'm getting goosebumps. It's just all these levels of just beautiful in this movie.
So so father is standing at the back of the train transitioning, and you think it's going to be this deeply upsetting experience because he's had this deeply upsetting experience, but actually he's just sitting there reminiscing about the first time that he held his daughter when she was born. And he goes from being really upset to being really kind of
like
euphoric and happy about it. And we just see him like this kind of really stark kind of colored version of things flipping to this really super white idealized version of that, flipping back and forth in his feelings about it. And then we see his shadow just like tipping off the train.
You see his face, and he's zombie, but he's still human zombie enough, and he's having these things. And then you cut away and you can see like the train is moving, and you just see the shadow, and there's just like his shadow
it's just so well done.
And again, I thought that was the end. Like,
but it wasn't.
That was I was like, I thought that was the end, because I was like, that was beautiful. Like, I thought that was wonderful.
But then we make it to Busan. We work the break very effectively once it's time.
Yeah, despite having only the briefest of training by someone with themselves no training.
Exactly. We pressed the brake button.
And the train has stopped.
Yeah, and then the little girl and the pregnant woman, who are only of the dream team, are only two survivors, not including the fetus, but like that, it goes without saying.
Implied.
And they get there, and it's before a tunnel, right? And it's just this like, that was it. That wasn't me. That was you.
It was me. Apparently, I've got an appointment.
It's just this fucking horror show of, it looks like a war has broken out, and there's just like fences and fires and dead bodies and
barbed wire.
A lot of barbed wire, and it's gone like, okay, so the train has stopped. The train can't go through that tunnel. I presume that we're about to enter Busan. I don't know if that's the tunnel that marks the beginning of Busan. They get out and they're like, well, fuck, like we've got to go on foot, right? Because like we can't hang out in this weird, awful like apocalyptic like mini world around us. And they go into the tunnel, and then it turns out that we have like a whole army assembled on the other side of the tunnel, and all they see are just like, just they're all there like little snipers, and they're just hanging out for like who knows days, and then they just see these two figures, and it's just like, fuck, like who are these like random people?
And because they're in a train tunnel, so they're kind of silhouetted against the black.
Exactly.
And she's pregnant, so she's kind of
going like
waddly. Although saying that, the zombies are really fast zombies, but only when but I mean, she could be a waddly zombie. So they're like,
exactly. So they, these people, they call the commander, and they identify that there are two unidentified people coming towards them, and it looks like a woman and a child, and they go like, are they infected? And they try and look, and as you said, Dave, because they're like silhouetted in the tunnel, they're just like, well, we can't identify on site, and they go, fucking kill him. It's like, we don't want to take these chances. But then the song comes back.
Yes. So the little girl is busting out the song from the recital now quite well, despite tears streaming down her face. It's
like when they zoom into her, and she's singing it with gusto, but she is fucking weeping.
Yeah.
It's
busting out the song, which is Farewell to Thee. That song. And they're like, oh, they're survivors. So again, this is like basically one of basically the point of the film. Like, are they human? Oh, we can't tell by looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the whole point of the film distilled down to this little epilogue moment.
But we can tell because of the song in their heart.
Yes. Yes.
And and so then it goes like they're survivors, and then all the army men run. So the last bit is like all the army men running full pelt into the tunnel, and then this like child cry singing, and the woman walking, and like at some stage obviously they must approach, but then like that's the end. Because I was like, imagine if you're a small child, you've just been chased by all these fucking zombies, and it's just people running at you
again, including military zombies, I have to say, and now you're getting military running at you.
We don't see the reaction or anything. It's just like, and that's the end. So basically they
so what a ride, man. I love this film. Like I say, like I think it's the first zombie film I've cried during. Sure. And there were 2 or 3 moments.
It was really moments. And as I said, like, I thought it was too long, but I felt like it was that second, it was the bit in the middle when they got back into the zombie train and they were going and they were doing all of the characters. And I feel like at that stage, I was like, okay, we're fighting zombie. And like, I guess once now having discussed it, and like you do have that build of like, we're just kicking ass. Now we're having these now we're fighting this. Now we're having this revelation about the dark. Like I understand it all need to be there, but I felt like if you could have just trimmed like 10, 15 minutes off that, I wouldn't have got so restless in that little middle bit. But then like, and then it comes back at the end and it was fine. And I really enjoyed the ending. But there was a bit where I was like, we've just been beating the shit out of zombies for like quite a time now. And like, and then I feel like we get back into like, it builds back into what obviously I last night felt to be a more interesting story than it's just carriage after carriage of fucking zombies that we have to get through.
Yeah, that seemed like it might have been the case, but it just wasn't. There was one bit of the film that was that, and personally I loved that whole bit. Like I was just so completely on board with the rampage. I thought the film really rampaged well when it rampaged, and it didn't happen the whole film.
I wonder, because at that bit I did actively look at the clock, being like, okay, how much longer are we killing zombies for? But then, as I said, then I don't think I ever looked at the clock again after that. So it's like once I got over that little bit of like, all right, hurry up, and then we started developing in a different way.
For sure.
But no, I really enjoyed it as well. But I did say to Dave afterwards that like I still, as far as scares go with zombie films, I still prefer the slow zombie, because I really love that creep of feeling that everything's safe, and then either the sheer volume of zombies, even if they're slow, but if they're all going the one way, then that's scary. And I was like, there's some lights, or accidentally bumping into the zombie when it's. So I think in terms of scares, I'm more on the leaning towards slow zombies kind of film, but seeing that this was glorious. In the same way, like, I mean, I love 28 Days Later with the fast zombies. I do love a fast zombie at times, but
I just think in real life, I would be more scared by fast zombies than slow zombies. Like when the zombie apocalypse happens in like a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be more worried about the fast ones.
I mean, I think you're right. I think ultimately, yeah, because I can't run faster than all the fast zombies, and it should be scarier.
You just need to run faster than one person carrying
but I think
or be able to lift them and throw them in the direction of the zombies.
What I'm also going to work on.
Also apparently a valid strategy.
Yeah, we've now worked out how to survive the zombie apocalypse. Just sacrifice the people around you by throwing them at zombies.
Yes, even the train driver.
Even the train driver, because we don't need them.
Oh my gosh.
My other issue, Sophie, with this one was that I didn't have an anecdote for you. The last two I've had like things that relate. Sadly, or maybe not so sadly, I have not been chased through a train by zombies.
There's no real life zombie experiences to draw on as inspiration for talking.
It's quite a good thing. I mean, I've had some scary train journeys.
Yeah.
But and involving some sports players, but that hasn't been zombies. So.
Well, that's good. At least we're not just like adding some
more trauma to my.
I was gonna say just like adding to that like bucket of PTSD sitting in your head.
Okay, so good choice, Dave. Well done. I mean, you clearly need to add more to your list. But
wasn't on my list.
It was on my list. But
it was picked almost at random, but I think it was a good choice.
So I've decided my choice already for this week, and I don't know if this is one you'll have seen, Sophie, but I haven't. I'm sticking with 2016. And I'm going with The Monster.
I do not think, I think this is maybe the first one in a long time. I say in a long time, I had seen Return to Oz. Yeah, I think this is the first one in a long time where I know nothing about this movie at all, I think. What is it? Let me Google it.
It's American-Canadian monster horror film. So, yeah. Troubled mother and her adolescent daughter on a country road.
Excellent.
So that's what I want.
I do not think, I think this is going in cold for me this week. This will be
Oh, I'm
exciting.
glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, because I looked through the list. There were quite a few I wanted to watch, but then I was like, I mean, not that we have any links from film from week to week, but yeah, 2016. Let's see if it was a good
Right.
year for horror. Let's stick with it and go with The Monster.
How old was I in 2016?
Oh, I don't even know when 2016 was. What year are we in?
Oh, that was only like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in my late 20s. That was probably around the time that was when I moved to Sydney, I think. What a magical experience.
So yeah, so The Monster for
okay.
next week. Good job, team.
Beautiful.